I just had an Uber rider who was on her way to a job interview. So I picked her up. It was a good half-hour drive, so she wanted some time to prep for her interview. But at the tail end of the ride, we had a bit of a conversation about said interview. She was understandably nervous about the interview. So here's what I shared with her. I'm not sure if this also may be encouraging for some of you. I pointed out that it took courage for her to apply for this job. So she was kind of stepping out into the unknown and saying, hey, I've got a skill set that I think you're looking for. So that took courage to be able to put herself out there and apply for this job interview. Secondly, it took courage for her to even agree to go to said interview once it was offered to her. So that was pretty huge, I thought. And yet, in spite of all this courage that had brought her this far, you know, like to one, put herself out there and say, I think I have what it takes to do this job. And secondly, to be able to also dress up and look good and present herself in a way that says, hey, I'm here to showcase what my abilities are. Despite all of that courage that took, yet it was almost like she hadn't quite made it full circle, right? So she had done all these things, and yet she was at this point about to meet face to face with those who were going to consider her for the job. And I'm reminded of the story that I heard in the Bible once, where it says, if you're about to build a house, make sure you have all the tools in place before you embark on this project, lest you commence with building this house and then realize only halfway through that you didn't have everything that you needed, and you have to stop prematurely and you can't follow through on finishing your commitment in building the house. So in the same way, here she is having, prepared all her skills and the application process, and now she's at this point and she's about to walk into the interview, and she still needed more courage to be able to walk in there as if she meant business, right? And so I told her, you already have what it takes. The job has taken you seriously by giving their serious business time to give it the time of day to say, hey, let's get to know you better and see if we're a good fit. So they already think that you're worthwhile considering, because they're bringing you in and spending time on you to have this exchange. And so that's a pretty big deal. So walk in there, remembering all the courage it took to bring it to this point, and what's also going to carry on further. And remember that even though they're the ones considering you, you're also considering them as well. They're considering you because they're saying, you may have something that we want, and you're considering them saying that they may have something that you want. So walk in there with that sense of confidence, where not only you're being assessed and considered by these individuals, but you're also considering them and saying, do you have what I'm looking for in this job context? Don't forget that you have your set of prerequisite requirements that you are looking for in a job, and don't shortchange yourself. So she was feeling a lot better as a result of this conversation, reminding her again of the sense that she also has what it takes. And then I also finished off reminding her that regardless what the outcome is, whether she got the job or whether she didn't get the job, in no way is that tied to her sense of self-worth. Sometimes it seems to me that we base our sense of worth on what others think of us and what we can do for others. So if we get the job, we're worthwhile. If we didn't get the job, we feel worthless, right? And that is a story that may seem compelling for many, but in actuality it isn't. It isn't, because in essence, our worth isn't tied to what we can do for others. Our worth was there long before we could do anything. When we were babies, we couldn't do much for the world. We couldn't do much for our family, and yet our worth was already there. And our caretakers met us at that place that said, your worth is independent of what you can or can't do for us. we just signed on for this story along the way where we're only worthwhile if we're good to someone else, right? And that's not true. So I wanted to remind her saying, just gauge how you're responding to the outcome of this interview. If you got the job, yay. If you didn't, oh well. It never was in relation to your worth. So just watch the way your thought patterns are going. If you got the job, don't think, okay, I have worth. No, you already had worth beforehand. If you didn't get the job, you still have worth, because your skills aren't dependent on your worth. Your worth is far more inherent to you, who you are as a fellow human being, right? And so, yeah, those are some insights that I wanted to share with y'all in the aftermath of that Uber ride. And I don't know, I come across these many diverse conversations and so many things that I learned from, even as I listen to the riders I get to share space and time with. But every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta remember this to share with some of y'all, because there may be some of you who could also be encouraged by this perspective. I find stories really powerful. We tell ourselves some compelling stories, and rarely do the stories that we have about ourselves, rarely are they encouraging, right? And that's just a skill that we need to develop, in saying, how can we see ourselves with more grace, with more sense of worthwhileness, so that we're not looking to others for it, but we're looking to ourselves and saying, it always was there. Our worthwhileness was never in contention. I hope that encourages some of you today. Happy Hump Day.